Welcome back, everybody. This is Chad with Iraq Veteran 8888, and we thought we'd do a video on the one-shot zero. If you guys don't know what that is, if you ever heard of anybody, or maybe yourself, you've been down to the range with 5 boxes of ammo, trying to get a rifle zero to whatever, and you just deal with constant frustration trying to get the thing on paper out to range, and you leave the range and you still don't have a zeroed rifle, but you're 100 rounds down the pipe and money out the pocket. We're going to try to give you some tips today on how to get your gun zeroed in literally like 5 shots. And we've got a variety of different rifles that we're going to be showing off today and just showing some different procedures for them. But this is a very, very simple process that honestly, surprisingly, and not a lot of people really think about too much. But like I said, we're going to educate you guys today. But this is an older 336 Marlin in 35 Remington. And this actually belongs to a friend of ours on our hunting lease. And he was having some problems with the rifle. He said it wasn't shooting very well. He also said he was having some issues with the optic. He had a Simmons like 44 mag optic on there that was 4 to 12. A little bit too much optic for a 35 that's just really seeing use in the deer woods, where literally you don't take a shot over 100 yards typically. Most of the time the shots are within 30 to 80 yards on the top side of things. But we figured this little VX Freedom from Leupold, this is a 1.5 to 4 by 20 millimeter and a set of tally rings, would be the perfect fit for this thing. So we got it set up, lapped the rings and everything, got it squared away. And as far as windage is concerned, this sucker is like dead on the money at 50 yards, but the reticle is a slight bit high on the target. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna look down the bore and we're gonna line up where the bullet's gonna go theoretically with the reticle. And in order to do that, we've pulled the bolt out by removing the lever, and we've also pulled the ejector out. Hopefully we're going to be able to show you guys how to do this today with relative ease and not wasting a whole lot of money. So first step is very simple. Pull the bolt, look down the bore at your target, and you basically are going to see the muzzle end and you're going to see the chamber end, and you're going to have kind of 2 circles. So you have a small circle and a large circle. What you want to do is center up the small circle, which is the muzzle, with the large in the rear, and then just kind of center everything up. So I've got the muzzle aimed at our large target down there at 50 yards on top, and I'm gonna just keep my hands off the rifle, keep it in the same place, and look up, and we just need to bring the reticle down just a little bit. So we're going to bring the reticle down, and literally we're just going to turn the dial on the scope while gently holding the rifle to keep it in the same place, and we're going to line up the reticle as best we can with the center of the target. Now, once you've got it somewhat aligned, you can go back and check your bore again. And it is humid as heck out here, guys. My glasses are fogging up like crazy. So we got it lined up again here. Look up. All right, went a little too far. Bring it back up just a tiny bit. And I'm going to bring it over to the right just a hair. All right. That looks pretty good. Now, we can put the lever and the bolt back in the rifle with the ejector, and we're going to load up some ammunition, and we're going to take 1 shot at 50 yards, and we're going to see where our impact is. Be right back. All right, guys, we've got the rifle put back together here. I'm going to drop 1 round in the chamber here, and we're going to take a shot at 50, and we're going to see where we're at on the paper there after bore sighting the gun. A lot of guys will use like bore sighters that stick in the muzzle in. They're laser bore sighters. That's all fine and good, but as long as you can see down the bore, you can literally look down the bore and bore sight the gun manually yourself with pretty much similar results. So I've got a lab radar over here set up. We're going to collect a little bit of chronograph data on this Mornady Lever Evolution 200 grain FTX ammunition. Excellent ammo, by the way. We've shot it in a few other videos in the past, but take 1 shot at 50 and let's see where we're at.
The moment of truth, boy.
Moment of truth. All right. So as you can see, our impact on the target is slightly high and right. All right, and our velocity is 2186. I'd say that's pretty fair for a old school lever gun.
A little bit slower than the advertised velocity.
Just a touch. That's just the first shot too. So, all right. So what we're gonna do is we're going to keep our crosshairs on the center of the target, and then we're going to move the reticle up and over. But the way we're going to do that is we have to adjust the opposite direction. So we need to go up and right. We're going to adjust the reticle itself down and to the left. It's confusing, I know, because the shot landed up top and it needs to go down and to the left, not up and to the right. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. All right.
Whatever you want to believe.
All right, so we're going to go down. And these finger turrets on this VX Freedom are absolutely wonderful for this task. All right, and then we're going to go to the left just a little bit. All right. All right, right there. We're going to take another shot. Definitely save our brass. Get back here. So that's shot number 1. This is shot number 2 at 50 yards. This rifle is zeroed in 2 shots. I mean, now what you can do is you can just confirm that zero with maybe 2 more shots and just see if it's where you need it to be. But for a hunting rifle, this thing is done. That was 2 rounds out of a box of 20. Now, the rest of this ammo should last you the entire season. I mean, if not longer than that. This rifle's done. Let's move on. All right, guys, we're moving up to a precision bolt action. We'll discuss some of the details of this particular rifle in just a moment, but in the first segment, I very hastily zeroed a 336 in 35, okay? So people might say, oh, well, you didn't shoot a group at 50 yards. Well, we did shoot a group at 50 yards. Like I said, you do want to confirm for sure, but literally, the example is just to show you that you can literally get on paper and get a gun hunting ready within 2 to 5 shots. And I literally took a few shots and had that thing right on the money. So it's just one of those things. Now with a precision gun, you really want to take a little bit more time to get this thing dialed in really well at 100 or whatever given range that you want to zero the rifle at. But what we're going to do here is take this Ruger American. This is kind of a custom rifle. This actually belongs to Remington Little, who's down visiting with us and is going to be doing a little bit of shooting with us over the next few days. But this is a custom rifle he put together with an MDT ESS chassis, and we've got a pair of Seekins rings that are Vortex marked, obviously, but they're made by Seekins. We got a Vortex Viper PST Gen 2 5 to 25 power. These are really, really cool optics for the money. I mean, very, very cool. We've got the elevation turret cap off. We've got the inner turret set up to 0, and we're going to be using this to change our elevation, of course. The windage dial, we just dial it around, unlock it, re-zero it, lock it back down, and it's good to go. We're going to be putting some rounds on steel first after I get it bore sighted, and then we're going to dial it in really well at 100. And literally within this box of ammo, this rifle will be 100% ready to take out. And we've got some lab radar chronograph readings here that we're going to use to develop a dope card. This will be ready to go to the range and shoot 1,000 yards, just like that, within 1 box of ammo. So without further ado, this is a lot easier than the lever gun because there's nothing really to take apart. Remove the bolt. Now you have access to the bore. You can look down the bore just like we did before. And if you do have like a, if you have a cheek piece, you'll have to lower that out of the way, or a folding stock, fold it out of the way so you can peer down the bore and get a clear shot. This is kind of a poor man's way of doing it. Like I said earlier, you can use a bore sighter, a laser bore sighter that fits in the muzzle, and then you basically just align your reticle to the bore sighter at 50 or 100 yards, and you can usually be pretty close to getting on paper for sure. But we're gonna aim the muzzle at the head of the target at 50 yards here, and we're gonna see where we're at, okay? And we need to definitely come down some. Oh, these things are so easy to zero. All right, we're gonna verify that adjustment. That looks pretty good. And that looks pretty good. All right, so I'm gonna take a shot, don my ears here, and turn the lab radar on and arm it. Okay? I hope you guys can see how easy this process is. I mean, as long as you have access to an outdoor range where you can shoot at least 100 yards. This is an easy process to getting a rifle dialed in. All right, let's see where we're at 50 first, and then we'll go out to 100 and get this sucker dialed in really well, and then lock everything back down. Ooh, it's gonna be loud with this brake on there. All right, so I'm just gonna aim for the center of the target. All right, we are still just a touch high, 2 mils. So we can basically just drop this thing down 2 mils. Okay, so I'm bringing my reticle up to the shot that I just took. All right, I'm going to take one more shot. So currently our reticle is aligned with the previous shot, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that as an aiming point. And we're right there. Now we're ready to take it out to 100. Getting pretty good velocity. Get out of there. All right, so now we're gonna move to 100 yards, and we're gonna shoot our large paper target first. Normally, like what I like to do is set up a larger target, and I'll just kind of make sure that I'm right on the money. And this is literally a brand new rifle, so firing a few fouling shots before we start taking some groups for record. But I'm gonna take a few shots at the large target and then move on to the small targets there, and then see where we're at. Oh man. Okay. Windage is perfect, just needs a touch of elevation. Okay. And that was our, what, 4th shot? Or no, 3rd shot. That's 3 shots. All right, this is number 4. All right. So, I'm gonna bring it to the right just a tiny bit, and I'm gonna bring it up just a touch. All right, shot number 5. All right. Barrel's warm. Got a few rounds in there to foul it out just a touch. I'm gonna start taking some shots at the smaller targets on the bottom on that LaRue 1-inch grid. And we're gonna see what we're doing here. Looks like a couple of the shots went a little bit high. Let me just dial the center of the group over to the left just a touch. And we're gonna load our mag back up, and let's see if we can tighten that up a little bit with this ammo. This is some 147 grain ELD M Hornady match. See if we can't figure out what's going on here. It's a 6.5 Creedmoor, guys. I mean, 6.5 Creed is supposed to be like the king of accuracy, right? This is actually the first time I've ever fired a 6.5. No, say it ain't so. All right, let's try this again here. So I made a very slight adjustment. What I'm gonna do, just for just to be safe, make sure this thing isn't walking around, I'm going to lock one of these screws down on the elevation turret just to make sure it's not going anywhere. And our windage is good right now, so we'll move over to that target on the top right there. Okay. Definitely looks to be capable of MOA accuracy. So from here, basically what we're going to do is we're going to just fine tune the optic and get it dialed in, shooting 5-shot groups at a time. Literally, within the next 5 rounds, this thing will be dialed in perfect. I really just need to lower it down just a tiny bit here and move to the right, and we're golden. All right, guys, we're going to move on to getting an AR-15 bore-sighted at 50 yards and then on paper at 100 and trying to get this thing zeroed. Now, this is a rifle that we put together with a 16-inch Faxon barrel. We're running a M4 2000 from AAC on the front of it, and we're running one of the fairly new Primary Arms 1-6 by 24s with the ACSS Predator reticle in there. And there's very specific instruction for zeroing the optic with varying velocities. So we're going to run the lab radar again. I have attached the airgun mic. I found that the airgun mic helps to pick up the suppressed gunshots a little bit better and actually get the lab radar to read those and provide a chronograph reading. We're going to be zeroing the rifle with some Mornady VARMINT Express. This is a 55 grain VMAX projectile in here, and the listed velocity is 3,240 feet per second. Usually that's probably out of a 24-inch barrel. And what we're going to do is we're going to remove the rear takedown pin. We're going to pull the charging handle and the bolt carrier all out. And what we're going to do is just kind of take a little gander here through the barrel. And I'm going to line it up again like we did last time with the head of the target at 50 yards. Right there, and we're going to see where the optic is. So it looks like we're a little bit high and to the right. So we're going to keep the upper assembly as still as we can, and we're just going to dial this down, and we're going to dial it over to the left a little bit. And we're going to look through the upper receiver again through the barrel. Okay, maybe gone a little bit too far to the left. Okay. Bring her back up just a touch. ARs are a little bit tricky to get bore sighted. Typically in the field, I'll use a tripod with a hog saddle on there to keep this thing nice and still. I can just let the lower just kind of hang, and I can make adjustments to the upper without really having to hold the thing in place. Once I make the adjustment and get it settled, I can just look through the optic, see what I need to do, try to hold the upper steady, and then adjust as I need, and then peer through again, and then just make my adjustments as needed until I'm satisfied. Doing it from the bench, like I said, it's a little bit more tricky with this tiny little 5.56 bore compared to something like a 6.5 or like a 308. But I think we're good to go. We're going to put the charging handle and the bolt carrier group back in here. We're going to close her back up, and we're going to take a shot at 50 yards And we're going to collect some chronograph data so we can know where to zero this particular optic at 100 yards in order for the BDC in the reticle to actually work properly. So, all right, let's take a shot and see where we're at 50 here. All right, so I'm going to aim at 50 yards, center of the target on the steel. Just a touch high, 2,761 feet per second. That's moving mighty slow compared to the average that's listed on the box. All right, so need to bring that shot down just a tiny bit. So I'm going to hold where I aimed, and I'm going to bring the reticle up to my shot at 50 yards. Now I'm going to take one more shot. I'm going to aim at my previous shot on the plate as a standard or a steady point of aim. And we're right in there. Okay, now 2815. All right, now let's move to 100. Let's see what we got here. So we're slower than we're much slower than the listed velocity in the manual for the ACSS. So what this will merit is a call to primary arms to find out exactly where we need to zero for our listed average, which is looking like it's probably going to be around 2,800 feet per second out of this particular barrel here. So let's keep shooting, and we'll get it kind of dialed in at 100 and just show you guys what we're working with here. Now, this is a 6-power optic, so when we move to 100 yards, I mean, you'll definitely need a spotting scope. I've just got the Vortex here laying on the table. But you'll need a spotting scope to really dial everything in properly. Or you'll have to take a few shots, make your rifle safe, and walk down range, and then figure out where you need to adjust on your target, which is very time consuming. So let's take a shot at the large target at 100 there, and we're going to see where we're at. I'm going to take one more shot. That was 2820. All right. Take a gander through the spotter and see what we're working with here. I mean, that's pretty solid, guys. We're just a touch high at 100. It could literally, the group, I mean, it's a 2-shot group, but it could settle to go to the right just a tiny bit. So we're going to move it to the right, and these are 1/2-inch adjustments at 100 yards. I'd say we need probably 1 click. And I'm going to aim for the bottom target, the top left square on that LaRue 1-inch grid. You guys can see it before I do. I mean, literally, that was less than 10 shots from boresighting at 50 yards to putting it on paper at 100, making a very fine adjustment. And if this was a standard optic that you didn't really have to fine tune for the BDC to work properly, you would be right on the ball. Less than 10 shots, not even an entire box of ammo. And you're saving all that money and saving time at the range and actually being able to get out and do more shooting instead of wasting ammo on trying to, you know, line up your rifle, look down. I've seen guys look down the sides of the guns and everything like that. And I mean, looking through the bore is the best option. And like I mentioned earlier, if you do have a gun that you do not have access to the bore, you know, from the actual receiver itself to be able to see through it, you can use a laser bore sighter, But buyer beware, there are some very cheap ones on the market that do not work very well at all. They're not very accurate. You know, you really need to spend a little bit of money if you want to get a good quality bore sighter. We've done a lot of laser bore sighting up at Moss when we're setting up customers' guns and things like that. And right out of the door, they can get on paper at 25 to 50 yards almost 100% of the time. Basically 99% of the time, I'd say that any given shooter can get on the paper at 50 yards with a just standard bore sighted gun with a laser bore sighter. But using this method is very cheap. Obviously, you don't need any extra tools. You just need your gun and a little bit of ammo and a range. Stay tuned, guys. We're actually going to be taking this exact rig out to the range, and we're going to be doing some testing with the ACSS Predator here and really putting it through its paces and seeing what it'll do with this Varmint Express ammunition. Once we get it fine-tuned and get the zero in where we need it to be for the BDC to work properly, this thing really should be money. So stay tuned, guys, for that. Until next time, we'll see you soon.